Well, let's see if we can fix this little Murry 21-inch 450E, a 4.5 horse push mower here. This thing came in, and you know, you keep priming the old primer bulb on it, she'll start up and run for a few seconds and then just boom, dies out. So we're gonna hit the old primer bulb and show you what it's doing now. And then we'll show you what we're gonna do to try to fix this thing. Let's see if it'll start. Let's prime it a couple more times and see what happens. Well, that's all we got out of it. So I guess our next step is going to be to start working on the fuel system. We know it's got a spark or else it wouldn't run. But that'd be the first thing you check is pull off the actual spark plug wire, which is right here, and have somebody pull the handle and check for spark. Now, I've already done that, so I know it's got spark. I know spark's not the issue, so it's got to be in the fuel system. So what we're going to do here shortly is we're going to pull the carburetor off, pull the gas tank, show you the steps that we took or we're going to be taking to get that thing apart to see if we can resolve the issue. My assumption is that there's some water in the fuel, or the carburetor's gummed up, varnished up. It's been setting, lawnmower been setting for about 6 months. As you know as well as I do, fuel doesn't last long. It's so cheap fuel we got nowadays. If it ain't methanol or what they call ethanol free, this stuff will really screw up a small engine carburetor pretty quick. So let's get to the next step. Alright, let's start this show. First thing you're going to do is you're going to remove these 3 screws up in the top up here to pull the top cover off. Now I'm going to try to do this with one hand. I think I used an 8mm socket on a 1/4-inch drive ratchet. Yeah, let me shut this down a second here. We'll take that out. Pretty easy to get out. I apologize again for the background noise. We're out here by a 5-lane highway. I call it the racetrack. And then this cover just comes off just like that. Lay this to the side here. It ain't gonna hurt if it bounces around. Keep track of these screws. I throw them down here. Now also up in the, usually on a lot of these old mowers, they're gonna have a little hole right up here in the deck, right in the front. I don't know if you can see that. Right in this area right here, there's a hole. So whenever you take this carburetor loose, that gas is going to drain down here. It's kind of level this way a little bit so that gas will run underneath it. So you might want to put you a little catch can underneath there if you don't want your gas to get on something. Well, it ain't going to bother me none today. I'll just mop the crap up with a rag. Take your air. That always needs to be serviced. Take that loose. And then you're going to come in here and you're going to have the screws inside here. You're going to have one there. You're going to have one down here a little bit lower. Let's see if I can get to it. And then you're going to have one here. And normally that's about it, I believe. And then you can pull that housing off of there. Okay, back to where I left off. I had to cut the last session a little short there and had somebody drive up, a delivery guy, so I had to take care of him. But back to where we was at. You got a screw here. You got one here. You got one in here. And then you got another one over here. You will also have a fuel line that goes from the tank here that goes into the side of the carburetor. Now there will be a clamp back here. I've already moved it over here. And there will be a clamp over here, and I've already moved it over here. So, you know, I know that I'm going to be taking it loose from this area. I'm going to clamp that off with some pliers and try to pull it out of there. And then this tank will snap. This cup tank will come straight up. There's really nothing else holding that tank in place. So let's see if we can get that. Boy, I really need somebody to take this video, right? But I'm a one-man band, so we're going to make this happen. Sometimes it's easy to get those things off. Sometimes they're pretty rough. I might get a screwdriver in there. That might help bit. Let's try that. Let's see what happens here. See if we can pry that thing off of there. Pry it loose. Especially if they've been on there a long time, they're really hard to get off. Be careful, don't break the tip on the nipple on the side of the carburetor. If you plan on rebuilding it, plan on replacing it, you ain't got no problem. I just put me a pair of old channel lock needle nose on there, clamp that line off, and get it loose like that. And then pop that carburetor off there just like that so no gas runs out of it. Now if you got an old hose, you may have to replace it if you clamp it and it starts cracking up on you, but that's what you're going to get. Then I'll take this little tank, just to set it on the floor over here off to the side. Well, that's how you take the gas tank off. Pretty simple. Now then, let's get back to the main part of this 3D movie, right? Okay, you got this one here. It has to be taken off. My screws down there because I'll figure out where they go. And you got another one over here on this side that has to be taken off. I'm going to change sockets and we'll get the other. I already loosened them up earlier to make it easier to get them out of there. And see, then you're going to pull that right out of there, and this little nipple slides right out of here. You can actually take this screw off and take the cover off first if you want to. I usually pull it as a whole assembly. So now we're down to where we need to go. Just pull that carburetor out, watch the rod here, tilt it at an angle, and pull it right off. And there's that little old piece of junk plastic carburetor. These things are notorious for the little jet inside there screws up pretty bad, or leave gas sitting in them. They're really difficult to clean, but you can buy these things online for anywhere from $12 to $18, $20. But we're going to take this one apart so you can see what it looks like on the inside here shortly. And pay close attention when you put them back together. This O-ring stays in place. It's very critical there. You need that O-ring. It needs to seal off very good. So on to the next step. We're going to tear that old carburetor apart. I don't have a real quiet place to take this video, but it's the best I can do, so we'll have to make it work. Got a lot of traffic noise out in front of the warehouse here, but we'll try to get you through it. Now that we got this thing ready to disassemble, we'll take these two screws out right here, this one and this one. Let me get my extension off there. Take those loose. Now this is the tricky part. Be careful, because if it's got any gas in it, I tried to drain it out, but if it's got any gas in it, it's going to go everywhere. You see there's a little lip between here and here. If you can find a screwdriver or something big enough to fit inside there, kind of wedge it each side, because it's got an O-ring in there. Until you can get a smaller screwdriver up underneath that lip. Like that. There you go. See how that gas run out of there? Really not much trash in the actual bowl. A few little small pieces, but nothing that would keep it from running. And it didn't look like it had any water. Now you get to the float. There's your float. And you see it hangs down. When it hangs down, gas goes in. When it goes up, it shuts the fuel off. This float just snaps out of here. Got two little ears here, one here and one here. That thing just actually just slips, pops out of there just like that. There you go. Careful, don't lose your little shaft there. And on the bottom of it, you got a needle. That's what seals the gas off on the float. It's all the way up and down. Oh, I dropped my pen. Pick that up. Anyhow, this little needle comes out of. They call it needle and seat. This one monitors or regulates the flow of gas coming into the carburetor. If it is not set correctly, it'll keep flooding it out, or if it's the opposite way, it won't let any gas coming in, the lawnmower won't run. It looks fairly clean. Well, that's inside of the carburetor itself. A lot of times what you'll find on here, there's a little jet down in here, and I know it's going to be really difficult to see. It's a little bitty, I call it a main jet. And that needle and seat controls that, opens and closes that little jet up in there. These are screens and venturas, I guess you could call them, that are taking the flow and taking the fuel and distributing it through the carburetor to the engine. From my past experience, if I don't see anything wrong with them, I'm not going to go in here and try to replace all this, because it's very, very tough to get all that cleaned out. Best thing to do is just replace it with another carburetor. And that might be the situation we're going to do here after opening it up. It looks like they tried to clean it at one time or another, but it's not going to be a functioning carburetor, I don't believe. It's just less expensive just to replace it. So what I've done is I went online and I found this one. It's the same exact carburetor for $13.99 online, and our best shot is to put that on the lawnmower to save us time. But again, back to the old one, if you want to spend some time, you can actually go in here and pull this stuff out with a pair of pliers. Let me see if I can get a pair, and I'll try to pull it out now. Sometimes they're in there pretty tight, and it may break, and then you'll end up buying a new carburetor anyway. But out of curiosity, I'm going to see if I can get it out. There you go. A lot of times what you'll find is there's going to be a lot of trash down inside here and here. And getting that stuff out of there is very, very, very tough. There's the inside of it. So again, folks, what we're going to do, let me back up also. This float that's in this carburetor is non-adjustable. It doesn't have any way to adjust it. Most of them have a little tab here that you can bend up or down to adjust the height of this needle and seat going up and down, but this one doesn't. It's non-adjustable. The other thing I've found on these is sometimes the float has a hole in it, fills up with gas, and lets it sit in the bottom of the bowl, and fuel just keeps coming in and the carburetor keeps flooding out. So those are things to check if you're going to rebuild your own. Well, let's go back to installing the new carburetor. The good thing about going back installation, make sure it's a lot easier to do because carburetors are put back together. Now, there was an O-ring on top of this little nylon spacer here. Make sure you take that off. And the new carburetor will come with a brand new gasket and a new O-ring. So put the O-ring in place first. That thing kind of a little loose. I think they sent me the wrong O-ring here. Well, let's see if it goes on this end first. Actually, you may have to take that nylon piece off on this one. That's a new one for me. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the old O-ring and stay with what I got, because it wasn't anything wrong with it. Looks like the O-ring they sent is the wrong side. This is the O-ring that came off of it, and we're going to put that right back on there. Put that spacer back on it. There we go. I hope you can see that. I don't have a professional cameraman here. And then put your rod back in it, just like so. Pick this up. Line your carburetor and put it back in place just like that. Make sure it goes over that O-ring and seals up pretty good. Now then, we'll get the gas tank. We're going to have a little leak of gas come out of here, but yeah, that's part of working, being a mechanic, right folks? Set your gas tank. You got 2 lips, 2 little ears there. One there, one there. Make sure they fit in here and here. Put that down in place. Uh-oh. We got a technical malfunction here. Let's take that back off. So the nipple came out the carburetor. There we go. We'll try not to let that happen again. Don't make the mistakes I make. Do as you're supposed to do, right? They say. All right. Kind of get that line lined up the best you can so that you don't have gas leaking everywhere. Push your gas tank back down in place just like that. Take your hose and squeeze it on there. And get you a pair of pliers of your choice. And put that. Clamp back in place. And then put your other clamp back in place. And there's your gas tank. Your gas tank's in place. So now then, just check again and make sure you got the correct alignment there. And get your other parts. For the purpose of this video, we're going to use this old dirty filter when we get ready to go back together with it. The primer bulb, the customer already replaced it, so we're assuming that it's working fine. And I checked it, believe it or not, and it does suck out like it's supposed to. Now then, keep in mind that you got a hose right here. I like to put that screw in the bottom hole just to kind of hold it in place, and then put that line back on there. Yeah, see, getting my age, it's kind of hard to see things. We'll leave that screw out for right now. There's 2 little nipples here. You got to make sure they're in place as well. Nope, I thought I might have had that the wrong way. Which I do have. It's the wrong way. Nope. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there. Well, I see what it was. I didn't have them little tits and little nipples lined up right. But let's work that. Get the line on the back side back here on it at the same time. Make sure everything's snugged up on it. Let's see if I can turn this around just a little bit to get a better view of it for y'all. And we're going to check all this out, make sure we got it right. Okay, all that seems to be in place. You can find the right bolts for it. With the right socket, of course. And, uh-oh, I dropped it. Put your screw in there just to kind of hold it in place. It's hell being old. That's the wrong screw for there. They got a self-tapping screw that goes in there. I believe it was this one. Nope, that wasn't the right one. Well, you only got 2 shots at it. You got a big screw and a little screw. And you only got two sizes, so it's kind of hard to mess those up. There we go. I knew I had it in me, just didn't know where I could find it in me at. That one went there. And here is the other one. The black-headed screw goes to the actual frame of the carburetor. Or the black screw period goes to the frame of the carburetor. Let me get me a ratchet here. We'll tighten those two up. Make sure your linkage on the back is clear. Make sure your hoses are all hooked up. Hear my dogs out there barking. Don't over tighten them because they're very, very easy to strip out. I don't think you want to be replacing them again. And put this one down in the bottom. Alright guys, sometimes you may have to loosen this screw back up and this one up and this one back up if you have a little hard time getting that one in there, as I did in this situation. So I've loosened them up and I'm going to put these screws in now. I know this is a lengthy video, but there's a lot of people out there intimidated, scared to death of doing this. It's not really hard. Cleaning one out is a little more technical, but replacing the carb is pretty simple. If you got any basic mechanical skills, you can figure this out. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Trust me, I'm not one. Now I'm going to tighten these back down. Like I told you earlier, I had to loosen them to get the alignment on the other ones right. Again, we're going to use this old breather for right now. We don't have anything to replace it with, but just to check it and see if it runs, it should be all right. There we go. That just snaps back in place. You got a ear on the bottom and there on top. Check, make sure you got everything, make sure your linkage is all there, make sure the gas tank's in place before you go any further. And the real hard part of it is done. Now we're going to go back to putting the pull start recoil back on it. Which is really pretty simple. You just set it in place, pull the rope a little bit, it'll drop down. And then put your 3 screws back in there. Line those all up before you start tightening them. Works a lot better if you get you a little socket. Kind of set them down in there to little holes or kind of deep on top, so it can be a little tricky getting those screws started, but like I said, get you a ratchet, a socket. You know, put them in by hand so you don't cross thread them. It's only 3 of them. What I normally do, you know how you got up on the handle up there, which I showed a picture of blue off. That handle is your brake for the motor. When you shut it down to release it, it locks around the actual flywheel on the engine to keep it from rotating. It shuts the motor down. Alright folks, we got that there. Let's hit the primer a couple of times. We ain't going to start it on this old cart for sure. But we'll get it on the ground. It'll take a little while probably for that old carburetor to fill up with gas, being it was empty. But we'll fix to see what it's going to do. Alright folks, back to what I was trying to explain a while ago. This little old handle right here is a brake. When you hold it down, the mower will start, and that's the way it's supposed to be. However, when you release it, that cable releases the brake that goes around the flywheel. So you want to sit there and let it run. I just take a little towel wrap and wrap it around here and hold it, but that ain't going to be the case here. Well, we got this thing put back together. Now let's see if the problem was the carburetor. You know, we're not sure in any circumstance because there was no trash in it. But them little jets or stuff inside that carburetor could have been plugged up. So let's give it a couple of pulls and prime it a couple of times. And let's see, it take a little while for that fuel to get down there. But hopefully, normally when I put one of these on, it starts up right away. Well, that wasn't bad. Now, I'm not going to hit the primer the second time. I'm going to see if it's going to start on its own. Now we may have to prime it again. Well, folks, I would guess, and I would have to say that the carburetor was a culprit. Now, you don't have to do what I did here and buy a new carburetor, even though it was really cheap. You might just go out there and clean what you got, try to put it back on there, and it may run just fine. Sometimes just a little bit of water in the gas will cause you major problems. You know, people don't service them, don't check the gas can. Sometimes you get a little moisture in them. You pour it right in that little lawnmower, and that little bitty single spark plug up there will foul out pretty quick. Won't run on water. But again, I hope you learned something from this video. Like I said, it ain't no professional video, but it hopefully will guide you in the right direction. I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button. We'll be working on a lot more different lawnmowers here in the near future, and we're going to try to post some videos. Hopefully I can get somebody to shoot the scenes for me instead of me having this on a tripod and make it look more professional and maybe a little more clear. Again, sorry about the background noise. Hit the like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. We need all the help we can get out here on YouTube. We're just a mom and pop operation. We're not one of these big old $1 million a year businesses. Thanks for watching.